Alright, starting off the final archetype analysis of this month of archetype analysis. We're finishing off with an Arc 5 archetype known as GEM-NIGHT, used by the third member of the LDS trio, Masumi Kotsu. And yeah, GEM-NIGHTs are a fusion spam archetype, as you probably knew already since we covered the previous two members of the LDS trio. And they're kind of like a humanoid counterpart to Crystal Beasts, except they don't do they have the spell and trap zone gimmick. But yeah, anyway, let's get started with this archetype. But before we do, we have a few normal monsters we need to take care of. GEM-NIGHT Lapis, GEM-NIGHT Tourmaline, GEM-NIGHT Sapphire, GEM-NIGHT Garnet, and GEM-NIGHT Crystal. Basically, these normal monsters are usually ran, well, the first four actually, because they have their exclusive fusion monsters which they are required as material. Lapis, Garnet, Sapphire, and Tourmaline all have their fusion monsters which they are required to be used for, and GEM-NIGHT Crystal doesn't have any of those, so you avoid them in any build you can possibly think of unless you're running the Sacred Sword of the 7 stars for whatever reason. Because he is a bricky level 7, and yeah, he mostly just breaks your hand. The only possible build you can think about running this guy in is in Evil Hero Dark Gaia builds, because he has massive attack value for an Earth monster, so yeah. But anyway, let's go into their actual effect monsters, first up being GEM-NIGHT Lazuli. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one normal monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. Well, this is basically a nice recycling ability, since sending this to the graveyard is usually gonna be via fusion summon. And since with new links mechanic, it's bound to get even more usefulness out of its effect. And yeah, targeting a normal monster, which usually would spell Lapis, Garnet, Sapphire, and Tourmaline, and we usually use this effect with Lapis to get into one of their fusion monsters and to get Lapis back into the hand. So yeah, run by preference if you're running the fusion monster. The Lapis is required for. And now going for the monster I actually forgot to mention in the Melodious video, but I actually wanted to mention it here because it originated from this archetype. Crystal Rose is a level 2, which once per turn you can send one GEM-NIGHT monster or Melodious monster from your hand or deck to your graveyard, and if you do, this card's name becomes the sent monster's name until the end phase. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one fusion monster from your graveyard, special summon this card in defense position. You can only use this effect of Crystal Rose once per turn. The only reason why this thing was given a Melodious, how should you say, adjustment was because of the anime and Yuri love. Well, anyway, it is better with GEM-NIGHTs because GEM-NIGHTs have a lot more monsters who have specific monster names as fusion materials, while Melodious monsters don't have any at all. So yeah, you don't run this in GEM-NIGHTs, and you certainly do not run this in Melodious. Well, that was short. Well, anyway, next monster is their first level 3 GEM-NIGHT Obsidian. If this card is sent from the hand to your graveyard, you can target one level 4 or lower normal monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. Again, we have really good recycling here, and yeah, it's a really nice fusion material card, as we'll see on later, and it's arguably better recycling than Lazuli because it special summons, and you can use the special summon monster as link material, fusion material, Xyz material even. So yeah, it's pretty damn good, and yeah, you should always run 3 Obsidian. Their next monster is another obscure one, Gem-Elephant. During your main phase, you can return this face-up card on the field to the hand. During damage calculation, if this card is attacked or was attacked, you can send one normal monster from your hand to the graveyard. This card gains 1000 defense. Simply put, don't run this. It only works on normal monsters and it's pretty bad. Moving on. Next up is Gem Merchant, another obscure one. And during the damage step in either player's turn, when a face-up Earth normal monster you control attacks or is attacked, You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. That monster gains 1000 attack and defense until the end phase. Is this why you run Crystal? Well, if that's why you run Crystal, then you should even less consider running it, because this thing is awfully specific. Well, yeah. No, just ignore this. Moving on, we have Gem Turtle with a flip effect. Lovely. Well, anyway, its flip effect is that you can add one Gem-Knight Fusion from your deck to your hand. Quick heads up, Gem-Knight Fusion is their archetypal fusion spell, and we'll get to that later. It's not a bad card, but this is not the way how you search it. Yeah, just ignore this. Next up is GEM-ARMADILLO, and probably the least bad of the bunch. And when this card is normal summoned, you can add one Gem-Knight monster from your deck to your hand. And yeah, it's simple Stratos-like searching, except this one can barely dream to become Elemental Hero Stratos. Well, anyway, yeah, if you run this, you run it at 1 max. Goodbye. Alright, moving on, back to the actual Gem Knights. We have Gem Knight Iolite. He is a Gemini monster, and when he's summoned twice, once per turn, you can banish one Gem monster from your graveyard to target one Gem Knight card in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. An already slow and specific effect bogged down by the fact that this thing is a Gemini monster for whatever reason. And I also like how you can banish any Gem monster, so that you think you'd actually be running anything other than Gem Knight, for example as GEM-ARMADILLO, Turtle, or even Merchant. Yeah, I mean, he's way too specific to be usable, but provided that he can search out any Gem Knight card from your graveyard, well, recycle that is, he's warranted running at 1 max. Alright, next up is Gem Knight Emerald, and you can banish this face-up card you control and one face-up normal monster you control, and target one Gem Knight Fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it from the graveyard. To be honest, this is actually a really good effect, and basically it's an archetypal searchable refusion at that, and yeah, but yeah, it's a bit slower since it requires banishing a normal monster, and yeah, you usually run those normal monsters at 1 max of each if you run them, so yeah, two is acceptable to run the Emerald, or one or two should be fine. Anyway, next up we have Gem Knight Amber, and oh boy, it's another Gemini monster, an Earth Thunder type monster, one of the 10 in the game. And yeah, this card is treated as a normal monster. Yeah, you need to summon this guy twice, and once per turn you can send one Gem Knight card from your hand to the graveyard to target one of your banished monsters, add that target to your hand. This is a good effect, it recycles banished stuff, and as we'll see later, we'll have lots of cards that banish stuff from the graveyard, and an archetypal way to retrieve them is nice. However, why the hell do you need to be a Gemini monster? Why couldn't this be a really nice once per turn effect without that Gemini clause? Yeah, run 1 max. You need to run at least one of them. Well, maximally one of them, because this thing is awfully slow. Anyway, we have another Gemini monster, Gem Knight SARDONYX, and I think this is the last Gemini monster, so yeah. And when it's summoned twice, and when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can add one Gem Knight card from your deck to your hand. Really nice affair, really good searching the entire archetype, but it's a bit too slow for my liking, and I mean, you run 1 max, because yeah, it's a Gemini monster and this thing is slow even without that Gemini restriction. I would run actually 2 of them if it wasn't for the Gemini restriction. Well, yeah, that's about it. Next up is Gem Knight Alexandrite, and you contribute this card to special summon one Gem Knight normal monster from your deck. The only monster that benefits from this is Crystal, and with that you've answered your question if you should ever bother running this, which is no. Well, that was actually their entire main deck. Moving on to their extra deck, we have the Gem Knight Zirconia, their first fusion monster, and it's a vanilla monster. It requires any Gem Knight monster and any rock type monster. Basically, it's okay beat stick and nothing else, but their other monsters are much better at that. Next up, we have Gem Knight Lady Lapis Lazuli, who really reminds me of Lapis from Taimado Gaku and 35. Requires specifically Gem Knight Lapis and any Gem Knight monster. I would have loved if it required specifically a Gem-Knight Lapis and a Gem-Knight Lazuli. And yeah, must first be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials. You can only special summon Gem-Knight Lady Lapis Lazuli once per turn this way. Once per turn, you can send one Gem-Knight monster from your main deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each special summon monster on the field. Well, this is actually a pretty okay effect, because in today's format, fields are gonna be swarming with special summoned monsters, and the extra deck dump is kind of sweet actually. And yeah, you can actually summon this with instant fusion, which is another plus, since you can then proceed to use it for materials for their bigger fusions, as we'll get into them later. And yeah, but anyway, this card's effect is actually outclassed by a predecessor I covered in the previous video, that being Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, which instantly destroys all special summon monsters and inflicts 500 damage for them. So yeah, it's an okay card, okay level 5 fusion. Anyway, next up we have Gem-Knight Topaz. He requires specifically Gem-Knight Tourmaline and any Gem-Knight monster, and must first be fusion summoned with the above materials, and this card can attack twice during each battle phase. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster in the graveyard. Well, the double attacking is nice and the burn is sweet, but his base stats are really pathetic for a level 6 and a fusion monster at that. I mean, there are a few monsters that boost the attack points of Gem-Knight monsters, but this much attack on a level 6 fusion monster is really dumb. But still, it's worth running at least one or two of these because of the sweet double attacking and burn effect. Their next monster is Gem-Knight Ruby. It requires specifically Gem-Knight Garnet and any Gem-Knight monster, and must first be fusion summoned with its materials, and once per turn you contribute one face-up Gem-Knight monster, this card gains attack equal to the tributed monster's attack on the field until the end phase. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. Well, it's okay. Well, I would demote the piercing because, yeah, this thing actually does have pretty good stats, and it can even rise to become an even bigger beatstick. And yeah, this is actually where Zirconia suddenly flashes in relevance. But anyway, they have much bigger fusion material monsters. I mean, much bigger beater monsters, but you don't usually tend to tribute them with this because they have really good effects and OP effects compared to this thing, so Zirconia is the best target for this thing. And yeah, next up we have Gem-Knight Seraphinite, and it requires any Gem-Knight monster and any light monster. Must first be fusion summoned with its materials, and during your main phase you can normal summon and set one monster in addition to your normal summon or set. You gain this effect once per turn. And yeah, this is actually a really nice effect, since we have an archetypal double summon, which is goddamn essential in today's Link format. It can be used for more fusion spamming, XC spamming, Link spamming, Synchro spamming, whatever you desire. And yeah, it's also a level 5, meaning it's special summonable with instant fusion, so yeah. Seraphinite should always be ran at 3 in any Gem-Knight build. Next up is Gem-Knight Aquamarine, and it requires specifically Gem-Knight Sapphire and any Gem-Knight monster, and must be fusion summoned with its materials, and if this card attacks, it is changed to defense position at the end of the battle phase. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, target one card your opponent controls, return the target to the hand. I mean, it can be useful, but you're better off running Castell if you want free bouncing. And yeah, Castell is much easily splashable since he's a rank 4 Xyz monster, and yeah, Gem-Knight Aquamarine isn't actually that frequently ran in Gem-Knight builds, so yeah, you shouldn't run this nor Sapphire for that matter. Anyway, next up is Gem-Knight Citrine, and it requires specifically Gem-Knight monster and any Pyro monster, and must first be fusion summoned, and if this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate card or effects until the end of the damage step. So yeah, on archetypal armadas, which I really appreciate, so yeah, this is actually really good, and it warrants running multiple garnets as well. So yeah, and yeah, I've actually failed to mention that Garnet is the best monster out of the vanilla monster because he has the highest beat stick stats and he has most applicability here. And he's actually even ran outside of Gem Knight builds that focus on one of their continuous spells, which I mentioned later. So yeah, Citrine is usually run at 1 or 2. Their next monster is Gem Knight Amethyst. Requires any Gem Knight monster and any Aqua type monster. But must first be fusion summoned. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, return all set spell and trap cards from the field to the hand. Hey, Trunade! So this is what you've come up as an experience, well, inspiration for your effects. So yeah, this is an archetypal Hey, Trunade. And it's, yeah, I mean, I've seen better ones. You're better off running Hey Trunade instead of this if you really want to pop set the spell and trap cards to the hand. Hell, even some Time Lords have better bouncing than this, so yeah. No, don't run this. Their next monster is Gem Knight Prismaura. Requires specifically a Gem Knight monster and a Thunder type monster. Must first be fusion summoned, and once per turn you can send one Gem Knight card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one face-up card on the field, destroy that target. And yeah, this is a really nice popping effect, which is decent, I guess, and it usually run this at 1 or 2 if you feel like it's, yeah, it's an okay card for its standards. Alright, now getting to the good stuff, we have their first boss monster, Gem Knight Master Diamond, a level 10, or wait, it's a level 9, sorry. Monster requires any 3 Gem Knight monsters and must first be fusion summoned. This card gains 100 attack for each gem monster in your graveyard. Once per turn, you can banish one level 7 or lower Gem Knight fusion monster from your graveyard until the end phase. Discard names becomes that monster's and replace this effect with that monster's original effect. So yeah, to get this out of the way, this thing is limited as of now, and I don't know exactly why. I've never researched it, but basically, effect swapping effects are really nice, since LAPIS Lazuli can dump extra deck monsters to get their effects off easily with this thing. And if you're wondering that the battle boost is insignificant, well, it hits the field with 3200 immediately if you're summoning it as turbo as possible. But if you're not, it's usually going to be plastered with Gem Knights in the graveyard, so the battle boost isn't insignificant in the slightest. And yeah, run always in any build. And just that good. And anyway, we have their final fusion monster, Gem Knight Lady Brilliant Diamond. And this one is level 10. Also requires 3 Gem Knight monsters, must first be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials. You can only special summon Gem Knight Lady Brilliant Diamond once per turn this way. Once per turn, you can send one face-up Gem Knight monster you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon one Gem Knight fusion monsters from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Oh yes, this is actually a really nice boss monster, and you should always max out on it. Why? Because it first has really incredible high stats. Second of all, it can give you a free Master Diamond and basically any fusion Gem Knight fusion monster you absolutely desire. And it's just a really good card in general. And it's such a shame you can only summon them once per turn this way, because if you could summon multiples on them, it would be kind of broken if you ask me. So yeah, really good card, and you should always max out on it. And yeah, next up we have an Xyz monster. Never saw that coming. Well, Gem Knight Pearl is a rank 4 Xyz monster with 2600 attack, and that's it, because he's, along with Gaga Gigo, the Risen, the only Gem Knight, well, the only Xyz monster, vanilla monster in the game. Yeah, no, just run anything. Yeah, no, don't run this. Just ignore this. And for the first time ever on Archetype Analysis, we actually have a Link monster, Gem Knight Phantom Quartz. The first Link monster ever to be featured on this series. Requires 2 Gem Knight monsters, and if this card is linked summoned, you can add 1 Gem Knight card from your deck to your hand. You can pay 1000 life points, fusion summon 1 Gem Knight fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials in your possession listed on it into the deck. that are banished or in the graveyard, but it cannot attack directly this turn. You can only use each effect of Gem-Knight Phantom Quartz once per turn. So this is a legitimately formidable boss monster. However, I wish the stats were a bit better, since anything stronger than a goddamn Celtic Guardian can run over this thing. So yeah. This thing is incredibly fun to play with because it shuffles the materials back into the deck, meaning you can actually get some mileage out of them later with one of their continuous spell card, which we'll get into later. So yeah, this thing is really fun to play around with, so you should always max out on it. And yeah, this is a really nice card. Nothing else to say about this thing. Alright, moving on to their spell and trap lineup. First up, we have their archetypal spell card mentioned earlier by a certain flip effect monster, Gem-Knight Fusion. Fusion summon one Gem-Knight Fusion monster from your extra deck using materials from your hand or side of the field as fusion materials. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one Gem-Knight monster from your graveyard, add this card to your hand. Basically, this is archetypal fusion summoning spell, but it has really sweet recycling effect for its archetype. Banishing one of the monsters to add it back to your hand to secure more usage out of it to summon more fusion monsters. It's really good, but it's not perfect. But well, you do run at least 2 of these for the deck to function. So yeah, 2 or 3 of these you should always run. But anyway, I know what you came to see. The archetypal, well, future fusion, if we should call it that, that being the continuous spell, Brilliant Fusion. When this card is activated, fusion summon one Gem-Knight Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your deck as fusion material, but change its attack and defense to 0. If this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Once per turn, you can discard one spell. The monster special summoned by this effect gains attack and defense equal to its original attack and defense until the end of your opponent's turn. You can activate one Brilliant Fusion per turn. So yeah, this is frequently run in any build because it uses fusion materials from the deck and it instantly summons the monster upon activation. Basically, why you run this is to dump monsters you don't need into the graveyard. Well, this archetype is mostly going to be Garnet or some other stuff. Summon the monster and then have them in the graveyard so you can further use them for recycling and spamming more monsters onto the field. You can even use the monster as tributes fodder. Well, yeah, the applicability of this card is amazing, but I've never experimented much with it, so yeah. This is as far as my knowledge of it goes. But in terms of actual Gem-Knight builds, you should always max out on this one. It should always be ran at 3. So yeah, this is a good card. Next up was Absorb Fusion. And when activated, add one Gem-Knight card from your deck to your hand. Then you can apply this effect. Fusion summon one Gem-Knight Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the fusion materials listed on your card from your hand or side of the field. You can activate one Absorb Fusion per turn. You cannot special summon monsters for the turn you activate this effect except Gem-Knight monsters. Another really good card, since it actually lets you search upon performing a fusion summon, which is not many things many archetypes or hell, even other generic fusion cards can do, and I applaud for it. So yeah, you should always run 2 or 3 of these. It's really a fantastic card. Next up is Particle Fusion. Send from your side of the field to the graveyard the fusion material monsters that are listed on a Gem-Knight Fusion monster card, and special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck. It's treated as a fusion summon, and when you do, banish this card from the graveyard to target one Gem-Knight Fusion monster that used that used for the fusion summon. This fusion summon monster gains that monster's attack until the end phase. I mean, it's okay. It's a bit too specific since it has to be on the field, and yeah, the only usefulness of this thing is to get your attack points up in a significant amount, which is okay, I guess, but the only decent target for this is Ruby, and that's as far as it goes. Well, Gem-Knight Master Diamond can certainly get a mileage out of it, and that's as far as it goes. Their next card is their first trap card, PYROXENE Fusion. Send from your hand or your side of the field to the graveyard fusion material monsters that are listed in the GEM-Knight Fusion monster card and special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck. Special summon is treated as a fusion summon. Better than what was it called? Particle fusion. Yeah, that's right. It's certainly better, but it's worse in some aspect because this is a normal trap card we're talking about. So yeah, it's a quick play fusion spell, and it really there isn't much to say about this thing other than it can be used to summon your important playmaker in a pinch if you're losing the game. So yeah, running 1 or 2 never hurts. Their next card is Fragment Fusion. Banish from your graveyard the fusion material monsters that are listed on the GEM-Knight Fusion monster card, then special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck. It's treated as a fusion summon and destroyed during the end phase. Yeah, this is actually combos really well with PYROXENE Fusion, but the bummer is that you have to destroy the fusion summon monster during the end phase, and yeah, it usually is never ran at more than 1 because of its destruction effect. I mean, it can be used in a pinch to summon a fusion monster which you need to apply Ruby's effect on, or any other fusion monster which you might need to apply its effect once and then use it as tribute fodder, maybe, or a link material. So yeah, you run by preference, and if you run it, it's probably at 1 max. Their next trap card is GEM-Enhancement. Tribute 1 GEM-Knight monster and target 1 GEM-Knight monster in your graveyard. Special summon that target from the graveyard. No, run Monster Reborn. That's all I'm gonna say. Next up is Brilliant Spark, their final card. If a face-up GEM-Knight monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, then target one of those destroyed monsters, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send one GEM-Knight card from your hand to the graveyard and add this card to your hand. You can only activate 1 Brilliant Spark per turn. Simply put, it's a decent burn card along with some tolerable recovery, and yeah, it's as far as it goes, and it usually is ran at 1 or 2 max. And yeah, that's every GEM-Knight card I've covered, so yeah, let's go on to the grades. Consistency gets a real hard 3 out of 3 because of the existence of Brilliant Fusion, and since most of them are Earth monsters and Rock monsters by that, so yeah, they have some mileage out of some third-party search options, so yeah. Power gets 2 out of 3 because it usually depends on summoning Master Diamond or Brilliant Diamond. One of them is limited, and one of them is limited to being summoned once per turn. So yeah, while it's not the best, it certainly has potential to hit really hard. Comeback ability is a definite 3 out of 3 because Soul Charge can be a really useful card here, provided with some GEM-Knight Fusion techs, and even some link spammings can be get used mileage out of the Phantom Quartz special summon effect, well, fusion effect that is, and yeah, that's a really high comeback ability here. Protection, I think I will give it a 1 out of 3 because none of them have really decent protection effects, if you ask me. However, the versatility has to get a solid 3 out of 3 because of GEM-Knight Fusion's, Brilliant Fusion's splash ability and other decks, which is really amazing. So yeah, those were GEM-Knights, and with that I've covered the entire LDS trio, and I still like X-Saber the most because I'm a synchro spammer. You should be able to understand that. And if I had to pick my second favorite archetype from the LDS trio, I'd probably pick GEM-Knights because yeah, they have a cool aesthetic to them and their teaming is really good. And yeah, Yuri fans can rejoice between the romance of Yuzu and Masumi, which was barely existent as the show went on. So yeah, GEM-Knights are pretty fun and quirky little archetype to play around with, and yeah, I like to see how they evolve from that. Phantom Quartz is, I wish he had higher stats. It would be a much better card. It will actually see in the Limitless pretty soon if it was like that. So yeah, this was a fun little quirky archetype, and yeah, we are done with archetype analysis. The month of archetype analysis is over, and as December rolls in, what will I do? Well, simply put, I'll do the stuff that I failed to do in my previous in November and October. So yeah, we have 5 archetype analysis videos and 1 top 10 list. I'll do the archetype analysis videos first and then close it off with top 10 list. And after that, I'm on my winter break. Yay! I cannot wait for that. I won't spoil what the top 10 list is. I won't spoil what the archetype analysis videos are. But I'm gonna say that all of them are Arc 5 archetypes, so yeah, look forward to that. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as usual, I'll upload the next video whenever I can. See you all, have a good day, and peace.